Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Jon Robert Quinn. Jon Robert Quinn is an entrepreneur, and he's been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. He's a 4-time best-selling author, award-winning national talk show host, and a recording artist with over a dozen music releases. He is the founder and creator of JRQTV, an independent TV network showcasing small businesses and entrepreneurs. Welcome to the podcast, Quinn.
Hey, you. How are you?
I am great.
So what do we want to chit-chat about today?
Well, I think you've had quite a history of businesses and being an entrepreneur, and then we were talking about motorcycles earlier. So where would you like to start, Quinn?
Let's start with the beginning of my entrepreneurial story. Now, your show is about inspirational, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with saying, yes, it is true, I've never been drunk. Yes, it is true, I've never smoked a cigarette. Yes, it is true, I've never tried a drug. Now, I've taken ibuprofen, but even when I've had surgeries over the years, I refuse to take their Norcos and some of those other things. I've always been clean slate, and the reason why is because I believe that our mental capacity is the most important part of the journey, the entrepreneurial journey. And I always want to be as sharp as I possibly can. I do not like my head foggy at all. So my entrepreneurial story started back in middle school. That's where I really started figuring out, I started kind of tinkering with the idea of business. I saw my dad working literally day and night. I grew up in a broken home. It's my sob story, but I grew up in a broken home. Mom left when I was a kid. Brother was always in and out of trouble. He's been in and out of prison over the years, and a lot of abuse in the house, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of child abuse, sexual abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. We can talk negatives, but they've actually inspired me to this day. It's funny because, I'm tougher on my clients than I am on my wife or on my family, and I think that's just because of my upbringing. We don't raise our voices in the house. We don't slam doors. We don't bring any of the negativity into the home. We keep our home as a home. So I was thinking as a kid about entrepreneurial, building businesses and understanding that we could create money and leverage money without having to go and work for it. And this was almost taboo, talking to my friends' parents, talking to my parents, and you have to go get a job. You have to go to college. You have to go in the military. You have to do all these things that, let's say, I've done, which is my parents, but they still to this day are still trying to figure out what moves to make. They're still trying to figure out when the retirement's going to start. They're still trying to figure out if they're going to have enough money to get them through the end of their lives because they've worked all of their lives. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't want to work my entire life. I wanted to retire very young. And I always felt that, maybe this is negative, but intuition is intuition. I've always felt that I was going to die young. So I wanted to make sure that I live and I retire with enough life that I can enjoy life. Is that making sense?
That totally makes sense.
Okay, so I started building businesses when I was in high school, and the first idea that I had for a business was a skateboard company called American Skateboard Supply. Now, I was a dumb 11, 12-year-old kid thinking about business, and it was really cool because the acronym for American Skateboard Supply is ASS, and that was like the coolest thing ever, right? I mean, come on, the mind of a 12-year-old. But the point is that I knew that I can go through a supplier and I could buy skateboards cheap and then sell them to the kids at school for more money. Now, did the business ever get off the ground? No. Did I ever sell a skateboard? No. But my mind was already working. When I was 14, I was introduced to the guitar, and I started writing and producing music right out the gate. my first two big inspirers back in the day are still my big inspirers today, Jewel and Joe Satriani. So you've got an acoustic side, you got this instrumental rock and roll side. And when you listen to my records today, there's two Jon Robert Quinns. There's the acoustic singer-songwriter Jon Robert Quinn, and there's the crazy instrumental guitar Jon Robert Quinn. Completely different genres, they're the same guy. The point, though, is that those are the two inspirations that I had picking up the guitar. Well, I started recording cassettes, aging myself. I started recording cassettes and selling the cassettes to the kids at school. This was my first business. Let me flip my phone over here so it doesn't distract me. This was my first business. So I would go to like Goodwill or go to the secondhand stores, and I would pick up like the books on tape, 10 or 12 cassettes. You can get them for like $1. And then I would take nail polish remover and remove all the words off of the white cassettes. Now it's just a blank cassette. Put tape over the little holes so I can record my subpar recordings onto those, and then take them to school, sell them to the kids at school for $5. I was making money, and it was legitimate money. It wasn't like I was, selling drugs or cigarettes or alcohol or some of the stuff the other kids were doing. It was just legitimate business with art, nonetheless. And this is where I really started to understand product placement, putting my products into stores. I started talking with music stores and allowing them to consign my really crappy cassettes. And they would sell from time to time. People that would get them wouldn't be too happy when they put them in their cassette player and it sounded horrible. But a couple of them sold. And the irony is a few years ago, somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I have one of your old cassettes." I'm like, "Oh my God, I got to hear it." And then I lost track of who that was and then never got to hear it. But the point was that was the very first business idea that I had. After high school, I knew that I would never go back to school again. Didn't do the military, didn't do school. I wanted to start a business, and that's what I did. So I was already working in high school. I started taking on jobs at 14. By 17, I had 2 jobs. I was riding a mountain bike. I didn't have a driver's license yet. I was riding a mountain bike, I want to say 10 to 15 miles a day each way to work. So if you're familiar with Vacaville, California, you're not, but the audience is, maybe they are. My audience is, because it's only 40 minutes from here. I would ride from across from the prison all the way out to the factory stores every day. And that's a long trip. I mean, that's a long way. And so I knew early on that I was a hard worker, but I was making like peanuts, $8 an hour, $10 an hour, and the money wasn't going very far, but I was already understanding how to leverage money. So I started buying things and selling them on eBay, and started to understand how to turn a profit on things, and then started a cellular phone business that ultimately ended up biting me in the butt big time, got me in a lot of trouble. And I failed that at 19 years old, but that was the first $100,000 I had ever made off of building a business. And the irony is that for the next maybe 3 or 4 years, I bragged about that I made $100,000 because it was the coolest thing. I thought I was rich because I made $100,000. And this is also over 20 years ago. But the point is that I was already thinking and starting to grow. After that business failed, I took on more jobs, worked for a couple of years, and then said, okay, I'm going to focus my energy on writing and producing music and go on tour. And I didn't know how to go on tour, but I literally just started cataloging in a little notebook all of the clubs, all of the bars, all of the festivals, all of the everything, and then literally would just become my own agent and would just call them all. And I don't care if I'm getting paid or not. I'll make money on tips. I'll make money selling CDs, and I'll figure my way out. If I've got to buy a guitar at a pawn shop for $60 and sell it to another pawn shop for $75 to make $15, that's what I'll do. And essentially that's what I did. And I went on tour for about 2 years. I played about 400 shows in that 2 years, just driving up and down the coast, and was making a living. And then ran into somebody who was carrying a bunch of motorcycle helmets. And, I grew up in a family with a bunch of motorcycles, and I said, this would be kind of cool. Let's sell helmets, because obviously I'm not making any money out on the road, but I know for a fact that I can make money selling helmets. So I was about 22 or 23 at the time, and walked up to the guy and said, hey, I want to sell helmets. How do I sell helmets? And he goes, well, you got to go over and talk to Dave. So I go over and I talk to Dave, and I was super shy and knew nothing about the product and knew nothing about motorcycle industry, but I was eager to learn. So I went into his store, and I said, or into his warehouse, actually, 'cause he was a supplier. And I said, I want to sell helmets. And he goes, well, here's the helmet, the list sheet. And I couldn't afford any of the product on the list. And I said, what do you have that's like closeouts, the stuff that you can't sell? And he goes, I got a whole back room full of junk. If you want to go through it and make me an offer on it, I'll sell you whatever is in there. And I went in there and I just started pulling everything out that I knew that I can sell. And I think the bill came out to like $300. And I said, when do you want to get paid? And he goes, I need $300 now. So I went out and I played a few shows, got the money, came back to him and said, okay, here's your $300. And he gave me, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 helmets to get started. It sounds about right. 10 to $15 a helmet roughly. And I just immediately took them out to the flea market. So I took them from the house, or from his warehouse to my house. And then when Saturday came, took them out to the flea market. I was putting them on Craigslist and eBay, trying to see what was going to be the best way to move them. Craigslist was doing okay, but really it was the flea market. And I knew that I had something. First weekend, all the helmets were gone. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm actually making money. And this point was the first time ever that I had actually found something that worked. And now I had already had 10 years now. I was about 23. I had about 10 years of tinkering with business, the idea of it, but I never really had anything successful. So and again, I was 23. So when I say I have 20 plus years, realistically, I've got almost 30 years of experience because I started so young, but I can't count ideas as being in business. So I go back to him Monday morning and I say, hey, I need more helmets. And he goes, they're gone? I'm like, they're all gone. So we go back into the back room and there's more helmets. So I go, and this time he goes, well, you did really well on these. How long do you think it would take if I sold you 100 helmets? And I'm like, well, we sold these ones in a weekend. I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so. He goes, all right, well, let's do this. Let's put you on net terms. Let's put you on X amount of dollars per week. He basically just in-house financed me 100 helmets. Well, now I had to figure out how in the world I was going to get 100 helmets home, and I drove a Mazda Miata at the time. That was interesting. So I think I borrowed a truck. I don't even remember how I got them home. I may have taken 50 trips. I don't remember, honestly. I remember going to the post office some days and take 6 or 7 trips to the post office to sell helmets because I had to ship 20 helmets. I could only fit 2 or 3 in the car at a time. So I would just keep going to the post office back and forth all day long. So I got all the helmets. I remember my girlfriend at the time, she came home. The couch had been moved forward. The bed had been moved forward. There were helmets. The whole apartment was full of helmets. And it was like that scene from Pursuit of Happiness, when he has the little doctor machine thing, and it's just all over taking up the whole house. And we moved through them. We sold them and we started actually building a business. So I started getting familiar with the flea market and Craigslist, and started then connecting with other suppliers for other products, and started building websites to sell my products. And I'd always built websites for clients, but I had never built one for myself as a retail outlet. So I didn't really know much about how all that would work. So I built my website. It started generating business. Google was now the thing, and we started doing Google ads, and was just throwing so much money away in marketing, but I was learning so much. And then one day I said, I think it's time for me to open a retail store. And I went and I found this tiny little 300 square foot space. It might even been less than that. It might have been like 250 square feet for like $300 a month, just a little thing. I knew I could make the rent, just enough room for my helmets and a small desk and a chair. And the place literally had a line all the way down the hall. It was bugging everybody else because this little office complex had, you know, therapists in it, massage people in it, and lawyers and appraisers, you know, people that don't need the ruckus of motorcycle customers come walking down the hall. Hey, Quinn, where are you at? You know, and ended up getting a bigger space around the corner. Moved into that one. It was about twice, 3 times the square footage. Was there for maybe 6 months, and grew out of it. And said, I think it's time that I open a store in the mall. And the idea for that was to give men a place to shop as well as the women, because the men go in and they're following the wives around. They're all standing out in front of Victoria's Secret or in front of Macy's or in front of JCPenney's or whatever. And, you know, sitting in the food court on their phones or whatever they're doing. And I wanted a place that was relaxing, that we had all the motorcycle stuff. And I was tinkering with Ferrari at the time. I was working with Ferrari, doing some parts and accessories for them. Kind of the same situation, but more of a broker, where I would just line the people up and then make a ton of money. So I was really starting to get notoriety in the industry. I was appearing in magazines now and was really starting to get there. And in the middle, and of course I was doing this in the middle of the recession. And then the suppliers started having financial problems. And the suppliers then started having it where they couldn't ship helmets out as they needed to. Now orders were being refunded. Now it's costing me money. Customers were charging back because they were waiting a month for their helmet. Well, the guy down the street has the same helmet, and I, of course, don't want to lose the money. So I'm sitting here trying to get the deal in. Long story short, closed the retail store, closed everything down. I was homeless for the second time. And had to really figure out where I was going to go with my career at that point. And it was about a month. I called myself retired and sat back for about a month with my feet up and stayed with a girlfriend and thought up this idea, this business here, and said, okay, let's get to work. It didn't end up working out with her. Ironically, I met my now wife. I wasn't even looking, but met my now wife. I was homeless at the time. And I picked up a job at Taco Bell just so I could start getting money in, and then got hired to sell cars, and then got picked up at a mortgage company, and all of that within about a year. Left all of that to focus on building radio full time. And I did that in 2015, and my life completely changed at that point. Got married, continued to build the company. As radio has continued to shift towards podcast, towards digital, towards streaming, got out of terrestrial radio, and I'm now focusing all of my energy on building JRQTV into a streaming TV network. And essentially, I've been at this now for 22 years as a professional, going on 23 years as a professional. And now we're building shows with Hollywood. We've got shows being shopped to networks. You know, this new Saved by the Bell that they're talking about, I'm like right in the middle of this whole thing. And it's really nice now, you know, all the celebrity friends I've made over the years with all the other businesses, with what JRQTV is doing, all the talk shows that I've built. My ultimate goal ever since I was a kid was to host The Tonight Show. I'm right in line now with my goal. I'm interviewing celebrities. I'm building talk shows. I'm building my own streaming TV network. And I have, you know, decades of experience now, and I'm not the young buck anymore. I'm the guy with all the experience. So that's essentially my story. And a lot of failure along the way, a lot of mistakes. There was a bankruptcy in there. And the irony is, since this whole coronavirus shutdown quarantine thing, the wife and I have become more liquid now than we ever have. We've got more reserves than we ever have. We've cut all of our expenses. We cut everything that we didn't need. And we're sitting in a better financial situation today than we ever have in our entire life. And it's truly a blessing. And I think it's just because of all the experience from over the years of all the mistakes and failure.
Yeah. So you made them all already. But that is exciting that you're, you know, in line for the Tonight Show, and that's been your dream for a long time.
Well, we'll see what happens with all that. I mean, you know, we built this new show called Entertainment Tomorrow, on JRQTV. The whole point of it is, we use Zoom, the technology we're using for our chat here. I get in contact with celebrities, actors, musicians, their agents, PR people, whatever. I invite them to come on the show. If they decide to come on, they come on. We talk about their projects. We put them up on Internet Movie Database, IMDb, and we continue to build our network of people that we're working with. They have an audience. They're driving traffic. And when you have, eventually when you've got 150, 200 celebrities all driving traffic to a show, that's really, really good in terms of your credibility and your quality when you go to shop an idea like that to a bigger network. And with the design, it's not going to be hard for me to, I've had access to all of these people. I've done all of these things. Here's the numbers we pulled. Here's the revenue we generated. Here's what we've done for these people. And I did this without any financial backing. What could I do if I did have you behind me? What could I do if I did have your team behind me? And whether it's the Tonight Show or another show like it, on a major network, that's what I've always wanted. And I think that today I'm right where I should be in show business. I mean, it's all it really is just, I am just a guy that sits down with a dream and just accomplishes. When I write a record, it's all from the heart. I'm not thinking about it. I just pour it out. When I write a book, if I think about what I want to write, it doesn't come out. I have to just sit and write based on what my heart's telling me. And the same thing with my businesses and my projects. And even the people that I invite on the show, I can say, oh, he'd be a good fit. I'll get to it. But if I go, oh my gosh, I have to get him. My heart's telling me I got to get him. We got to do whatever we got to do to get him. And that's the point. So.
Yeah, just living from your heart and your heart's desire.
I think that's what your show's about, isn't it?
That's what it's about. That is what it's about. So I love to hear that. So I wanted to go back in your story a little bit. So, you talked about growing up in a very dysfunctional home with a lot of abuse. Mm-hmm. Did you have anybody to look at? Is there anything that inspired you to want to be an entrepreneur? Was there a neighbor or someone?
So funny. Yes, there's a couple of people. What's so funny is the day that I picked the guitar up for the first time, I was out skateboarding one day and came across these two stoners. This is in Monterey. Came across these two stoners. We went back to their house. They started rolling joints, and I didn't care. I mean, I wasn't going to indulge in it, but I didn't care. Do what you got to do. And then they pulled their guitars out, and they started playing this really cool guitar stuff. The guitar was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And they had introduced me to this guy named Steve Vai, okay? Instrumental guitar player, comes out of New York, worldwide notoriety now, played with Zappa and a variety of others. But they showed me a compilation album with him and a bunch of other guitar players. And I was really interested in this bald guy named Joe Satriani. And Steve Vai was cool, but Satriani's music was way cooler to me. Mm-hmm. And we put the album on, and I was like, I have to have this album. And I kind of became obsessed with Joe. As a teenager, I started shaving my head and wearing the sunglasses and would stand like him and would play like him. And that's all I had ever learned was his music. And that's all I ever listened to was his music. And I was about 16 or 17 and finally bought a Joe Satriani guitar, which you can see in my high school photos. I never showed up for picture day, but there's pictures of me with my guitar in the yearbook. And I kind of got known in town as this kid with the red guitar because I would just walk around just playing scales up and down the fretboard. Just walking around because I had no car. I would just play my scales up and down the fretboard. That's all I did. And if I'm walking from one end of town to the other, that's 3 hours. And I'm just playing a scale up and down the fretboard for 3 hours. So I looked up to him because he looked like he had the build of my father. My father was very violent. And I would look at his hands, and he had these huge hands and really hairy arms, and his stature and his shoulders and his build. But his eyes were so warm and gentle. And you'd watch interviews with him, and he was so warm and gentle. So I I essentially idolized this man, and I looked at him as like a father figure. And I said, I always want to be like Joe Satriani. And as my career has moved, I got word that Joe was going to be in Concord. This is back in 2004 for a CD release thing. And I had to make sure that I was in front to see him. So I showed up like 6 hours early. I was the first one there. And I made sure to wear my Jon Robert Quinn shirt, which had holes in it and stains on it. It was so gross. And I took a copy of my first CD to him, which was printed on an inkjet printer. It was just all bad, okay? It was just like a horrible experience. But I meet Joe, and I hand him my CD, and he takes my CD, and he looks at it, and we pose for a picture, and he takes his picture with my CD, and then he signs his CD over to me, and I sign my CD over to him. We shake hands, and on my way. And it was like this moment in my life, like, oh my God, I met Joe Satriani. Well, let's fast forward 14 years back to 2018, and I go down to LA, and I meet Joe. Now, my career at this point has taken off. I've worked with his producers. My career, the instrumental guitar industry is very small. It's a little tiny community. And, there's not very many people for us to all work with. And I've worked with a lot of his people. And, well, he's worked with none of my people. But I've worked with a lot of his people. And then the people that I work with have worked with him or friends with him or whatever. So it's just very, very tight-knit. So I go down to LA, and I've got my chrome guitar, which is his guitar. And I said, I don't know if you remember, but back in 2004, at the start of my career, I gave you my CD. I signed it over to you. Just want to let you know that, I've looked up to you since I was a kid. You were what got me through my childhood. Your music has completely defined me. I've made a career out of music and entertainment, and it's because of you, and I want to thank you for that. And he signed the guitar. He signed it twice on the front and the back. And we talked for a moment, and that was it. No big deal. Later on in the evening, I'm standing there, and Joe walks up to me. And he goes, I just want to thank you so much for what you said, and I want to congratulate you on your music career and inspire you to just keep going. Don't give up. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that was, I think, the big crowning moment for me, was that I've now been recognized as in the club, so to speak. This person that I looked up to, this is the man that got me through all of this, all these trials, all these things. And then this last week, I got really upset when two of his new songs on his new album sound like two songs that I just released on my last album. Almost note for note. Very, very, very frustrating. So, again, I've looked up to the man for a very long time. He's seriously one of the most humble, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. But I'm still kind of hurt at the moment that not only were my songs used on his new album in parts, so were a lot of other songs used on his new album in parts. And I don't know if it's a mistake or if he was trying to use other influence to write his new record or what, but it still really hurt when I looked forward to that new album coming out and I listened to my stuff coming out of his guitar. That was really tough. But I will say that Joe Satriani is inspired literally my entire music career.
Wow. And you got to meet him, and he acknowledged you.
He acknowledged me, congratulated me, and gave me the inspiration to continue to go out and build my brand and my name and my reputation. And maybe he didn't use those parts. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe he used those parts as a thank you because I'm working with a lot of his people now. Maybe it's a tribute. I don't know, but it's so uncanny from an artist. It's kind of like, well, that's a swift kick in the gut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he's a great guy and a hell of a guitar player.
So let's just switch gears a little bit here. So you really worked hard to get to where you are. I mean, running back and forth, doing whatever it took to get to where you are. So, is there time in your life right now to actually, even though you have a goal, is there time to enjoy things? You know, you mentioned something about sports cars and things like that. What do you do for enjoyment? Or you just like work, work, work?
You know what? I did not know what relaxation was until probably a year ago. I didn't know what it was. I ran into this lady. I've mentioned her many times. She is very, very unfond of me. I ran into this lady named Danielle, and she is a life coach. And she's talked to me for about at an event. I was representing one of the people she coaches, and she talked to me for about a minute and goes, "Wow, you were probably one of the most judgmental people I've ever met in my entire life. Wow, you seriously are just going to continue to chase that shiny object, and you will never find anything." And that hit me so hard, and I went, "I guess our time here is done." And walked away and went back to my buddy and went, "I don't like her." And he laughed and he goes, "Why?" And I told him. And then he came in to record maybe a week later, and I brought it up, still under my skin. Then he came in to record a month later, and I brought it up, and it was under my skin. And maybe 6 months later, it was under my skin. And then it hit me, and I went, "Oh my gosh, she was so right." And he's like, "I told you." You know, and I sat back and I went, I seriously need to just stop and smell the roses. I need to go out, when I walk my dog. I need to go look up at the tree at the squirrel with my dog. I need to quit looking at my phone. I need to quit thinking about how much money's coming in. I need to think about living rather than working. Because for 20 plus years, I've been grind. You know, I'm tired. I'm worn out, but I've never given myself anything. And I started to enjoy things. I got back into hi-fi. My dad's a hi-fi guy. My dad finally have something that him and I could, don't talk politics with the guy. Holy smokes. But I call him up and I go, "Man, I saw these speakers. We can talk for an hour about speakers."
Okay.
And you know, we've forgiven all the mistakes that we've made over the years. We talk reel to reels and turntables and amplifiers and speakers and cables, and we can talk music stuff all day long. And that's what we have. That's the one thing that we have. And that's great. And it's wonderful. And God, I wouldn't trade that for the world. And that, I think, was the moment that I realized that I was understanding what life and living is all about. I got my dog. I bought my Harley. I have my hi-fi, my guitars. Instead of going and buying cheap guitars and using them as tools, I bought really nice guitars, and I appreciate them. And I don't want to just get rid of them and buy another one now. I want to just enjoy what I have. And I think it's because maybe I'm slowing down. I'm thinking about buying real estate now, and you know, I'm slowing down. I'm thinking about retirement, you know, within the next couple of years, kind of just kicking my feet up, selling the company or most of the company or something. You know, so when you asked me, you know, what do I relax? More so now than ever. You know, I get up when I want to get up. I work when I want to work. I do what's necessary for the business. But it's not all about, you know, buying the house in Beverly Hills and having my Rolls Royce. There's been like 2 or 3 times that wife and I went down to go buy a Ferrari and said, "Well, we should probably wait." And then something happened, and so glad that we did. And, you know, we're fine with the Mercedes Benzes, which is, they're wonderful cars. But, you know, when you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you want to sell yourself as bigger and better, you want bigger and better. But I think that I've humbled a lot in the sense that, it's not all about the big and the flashy. It really is about, you know, what are you doing on this planet? What legacy are you going to leave behind? Of course, that's why I've worked so hard all these years, is to leave something behind for people, inspiring them, motivating them with music or whatever. But the other piece is what did I do on this planet for me? Did I waste and wither my life away with hopes that I do this or hopes that I do that? And I just kind of do my thing, and it'll all work itself out. The bills will be paid, and they're fine. The accounts, they'll be fine. And by changing my thought on that, I'm no longer struggling with money. I'm no longer trying to get the next deal. I'm no longer running around going, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills? Everything's there. We got the money, and just do what we got to do. So no, I'm learning more. And I think that's just, I think it's just maturity.
Mhm.
You know, we get older, and I mean, we were all, as my dad called us, spit and vinegar, I think is what he said. You know, we were all just, or piss and vinegar. We were all just piss and vinegar as kids, you know, and as we get older, we just want to put our feet up and relax. And maybe that's what's happening now. But yeah, I just do my thing now.
Yeah. And it's more about the journey than just getting there all the time, because that's where the life happens.
I'm tired, man.
Uh-huh.
I'm tired. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
So I've said it. This is my last hurrah, building JRQTV. I'll have other businesses, but I'm not going to build them from the ground up. My wife and I were talking about buying some real estate and then buying a bar, and have somebody run the bar, somebody who knows what they're doing, have them run it. And then just kind of just do our thing, just take the residual from everything, have property managers handle the real estate, have a bar manager handle the bar, and then have an accounting company handle all the finances for everything, and just put the money where they need to put it, and just kind of, you know, retire. 2 years is the plan. But when I turn 40, I want to retire. I just want to be done.
Well, that is awesome. And delegation. I love delegation.
The only way to do it.
Yeah. And how has this affected your time with your wife in the last year and a half, when you've actually decided, oh, I am going to take a look at the trees and walk my dog and not just work? How has that affected your relationship with her?
My wife has always been number one from day one. I've had a lot of long-term relationships over the years where I've made a lot of mistakes. And not the most recent one, but one that I had a couple of years prior to meeting my wife, she still resonates. I still hear her nagging in my ear with some things. She had a lot of very important things to say. She's still single, which is sad, but she definitely taught me a lot. I think the biggest one was to let it be. And ironically, it's become one of my favorite songs from the Beatles, you know, Let It Be. Because in life, I think the biggest takeaway from this whole show today is, in life, as humans, we want to control everything. We want to have our hand in everything. We want to delegate. We want to control. We want to get it done. We want to be fixers. We want to be manipulators. We want to be whatever. And she would always tell me, just let it be. Just leave it alone. And as I've gotten older, my wife is having a bad day. Okay, give her space. Just let it be. I cannot fix her bad day. She will fix it on her own. Men are all about fixing everything. And smart men just let the woman do what they need to do. They'll get over it. They'll figure it out and come back and talk about it later on. But it's the same thing with business, though, is when there's a problem in your business, let it be. It'll sort itself out. If you have a problem client, either cut them loose quick and get rid of them, or leave them alone and let them work it out. And it's just a philosophy that I live by today. Just let it be. Everything. When you're trying to write a song and you can't figure out, leave the song alone. It'll come to you. When you're trying to write a book and you can't figure it out, leave the book alone. It'll come to you. When there's a guy screaming at somebody inside the grocery store, don't go over there and scream, get in his face. He'll probably kill you. Just let it be. You know, I mean, just, you know, mind your business, mind your P's and Q's. But again, just let it be. And it's one of the things that I've learned by. So I kind of just do my thing. You know, I saw a guy one day, he lives here in the building, but he was like, he had his finger in her face and was screaming at her and the whole thing. And I just wasn't gonna have it. And I got all up in his face and said, man, time for you to turn around and back off. And he started cussing at me and said, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know if you want to find out. And here I am inside jittering. I'm freaking out. Like, this guy's he was big dude, big Mexican guy. I mean, I felt like he was going to destroy me. And he turned around and walked away, and we didn't talk to each other for probably a good year and a half. We see each other on the elevator. We get on the same elevator together because we live in the building. And he'd get on the elevator, and it would just be so tense. Like, I was ready to just, I mean, he was abusing this woman right in front of me, dude. Like, come on, man. And over the last couple of years, I see them together, and they're laughing and having a great time and everything. And now when we're passing, we just say hi, and he smiles and says hi. And I think that he realized whatever he was going through in his life, I was just defending his girl. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know who the hell, I don't even know their names. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I was just defending that person. But in my mind, I should have just let everything go and just let it be. But I still had to do what I had to do. You know, I'm not going to let somebody do that to somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do.
Two guys beating each other up, I don't care. But a guy beating up a girl, I'm not going to have
it. I agree. So Quinn, we met each other through a client, you know, one of your clients. I had connected with her on Facebook because I liked what she was offering, and we got to be friends. And she actually was on the podcast earlier, Chanel. And you know, since then you've helped me with my website. You're helping me with my social media. You do the radio station. Why don't we talk a little bit more about the radio station, what you're doing, what things that you're doing now, because you've talked about so many things. Why don't you talk about what you can offer people, or, you know, how to get to the radio station, how to listen to it?
100% of my energy is going towards JRQTV. 100%. Okay. So I'm building shows for clients. Now a client will come to me and they'll say, yes, I want you to help me with the marketing in my business. Oh, great. Tell me about your business. Well, I'm a this, that, and the other thing. Okay, what's your website? I don't have a website. Okay, let's get you a website. Now I'll sit down with the client and we'll build them a website, professional website. We'll get it dialed in, and we provide that. What are you doing on social media? Well, I don't quite understand it. I don't know where to go with it. Okay, we need to get that done too. So then I'll help them with the social media. The radio station, 105.5, gone. No more radio, no more FM radio. It's all gone. We have a lot of our content. We've got probably a good 200 hours of our maybe 700 hours of interviews on Spotify. You can listen to those, pull them up on Spotify. You can listen to them there. Everything that we've ever audio recorded is also on JRQTV in video form. That's where I really focus my energy, is on JRQTV. It's literally set up like like Amazon Prime. So you go to it, it's got all of the different shows. You can click the little arrow, it scrolls across. You can see what's trending, crime shows, music and entertainment, comedy, real estate, whatever you want, Food Network, whatever you want in terms of the content, but it's all JRQ related in a sense, either people that I work with closely or people that I've actually produced their content. So looking at what you've been doing with your show, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was taking all of your content and getting it on the JRQTV. All right, so all your video content, and that's something that I was thinking about earlier today. We'll talk about that next week. But because we're working closer together now, I can offer that. I will offer that. And in fact, now I've been on your show. Now it's kind of Jon Robert Quinn. So now we can get that content up on the JRQTV and drive some traffic there. But that's really where everything is at now. If a client needs me to help them with their business, I'll sit down with them. I'll discuss, you know, my opinions, so to speak. My opinions come from experience. It's not that I read a book or read 2 books or took a class. This is literally decades of being in the trenches, a lot of failure. If you're still running your business off of Post-it notes, you're setting yourself up for failure. People argue with me all the time, and then they go out of business and wonder why. You're unorganized. It's that simple, right? So, you know, it's, you know, understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and of course, how to actually get there. I help people with those things, with the social media, with their website. We do all the SEO. We get them the site rankings that they need. And then, of course, you're piggybacking off of the Jon Robert Quinn brand. To date, the Jon Robert Quinn brand consists of, what do I have, about 40 shows now on JRQTV. We're getting about 1,000 views a day now, roughly, on there. We've got, oh gosh, how many albums do I have now? 14 or 15 albums for my music. I've got 8 or 9 books now. 4 of them have become bestsellers. And then the podcast, and then of course all the other intellectual properties, the audio books, the speeches, the appearing as, all of those things. It's a global brand at this point, and we just continue to grow, and it's all organic. It's all in-house. I've never had big, publishers come in. I've never had big production companies come in. And it's really all been about the small business from day one. Is just helping the little guy get their message across. Some of my web clients I've had since '98. So I mean, it's a long time. I was in high school. They're still with me. So, yeah, pretty simple at this point. Just a lot of years. I'm still a young guy, but I'm tired. I feel like I'm like 60.
Well, you're retiring soon, so a lot earlier than most people do.
I think we're there, honestly. Wife and I were looking at buying the house that we retire in. We're considering leaving the state. Where are you at? You're in Georgia, right?
We're in Georgia, yeah.
See, we're actually looking in the Atlanta area.
Okay.
We're also looking at South Carolina and Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of show business out of Atlanta. That's one of the reasons why we go to Atlanta. A lot of music and entertainment out of Tennessee. It's why we go to Tennessee. But we can get nice, beautiful homes. I mean, Christ, what you can get out here would be a shed compared to these. I mean, they've got pillars, 5-bedroom with pool and on an acre. I mean, big fence and driveway. And hey, it's nuts. Yeah, out there. I mean, the houses are just beautiful. They all look like something out of a TV show. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we're thinking, and get the house that we would retire in, and sell a piece of JRQTV or all of it or most of it, or I don't know. Maybe just sell the whole thing and keep the naming rights. I don't know. And then, and I've even thought about just taking the shows and just sell the shows off all one by one, all the shows that I've produced, turn them all into separate entities and sell them all off. I don't know. So we're kind of kicking all of that around, and then buy a bar, and then I'll just ride my Harley out to the bar and just go hang out. And just kind of kick back, and I'll still put on concerts, I'll still write books, I'll still be working on other things, but climbing out of the trenches, I'm just tired. I'm tired of chasing.
Right, but at that point, you'll be able to just do what you feel like doing that day. So if you feel like writing, if you feel like writing or music, you can just choose whatever you want to do.
Yeah, wife is she's wrapping up her master's. She's going in for a PhD, and Dr. Natalie. So she's working on a book. She's working on a bunch of things. So she's going to have her brand that I'm going to need to then help establish her brand. So it'll be nice to have all of my stuff all dialed in and pushed over to the side, have maybe a office manager handling all of that, and then we start focusing my energy on her stuff. But we're past the point in our lives where we're saying, okay, do we have enough money to eat? A lot of people are not aware. They sit back and they look at my life today and they see all the money and everything, and they don't realize that when my wife and I met, I was homeless. I worked at Taco Bell. I mentioned this. Our second date, we went to IHOP and drank water and colored menus because we had no money. And we used to get a $5 box from KFC and split it. That's all the money that we had was $5. And the building that we live in now, we would drive our junky little car up to the building just about 2 or 3 nights a week just to look at the building, hoping that someday we could move in. And we've been here about 6 years now. And now we're looking at moving up, moving to, buying our dream home and those types of things. So no, we've definitely worked our asses off. We really have. She was a college dropout. She never finished her associate. She was a college dropout when we met. She was a barista at Starbucks. She was living at home, and I was sleeping on a buddy's floor. And another part of the story, maybe this is a nice inspiring part for your show, is when I was selling cars, I was sleeping on a floor, and I saved up money to open an office to build this business. and would sleep on the floor in the office and would brush my teeth and clean myself up at Target, and would use public bathrooms to clean myself and do those things because A, I didn't have enough money for an apartment, and B, my wife is Russian, and Russian culture is the daughter doesn't move out until the wedding day. So we dated for about a year and a half before we were married, but she couldn't move out until the wedding day, nor could she stay the night or anything like that. So I was sleeping on the floor in a little 300 square foot office, freezing my ass off at night, in a sleeping bag. But that's where we started this business, with a computer I bought on Craigslist for $60, a cheap desk I bought for maybe $20 or $30, and just sat there and would work my butt off during the day and work on this thing all night. That's where this started. And just a guy with a dream, just trying to figure his life out. So it's kind of surreal, though. It's kind of surreal when you sit back and you think about the way things were, then you look at it today, and it's, we don't know if we're going to get our $2,400 stimulus checks because we don't qualify, and we're like, whatever. We were just going to give it to a family that needed it anyway. It's just really weird when you go from sharing a $5 meal to not really caring whether $2,400 shows up or not.
Yeah. It's amazing and miraculous and wonderful.
So what we're thinking about, you got to get out of here pretty soon. One of the things we're thinking about is raising some money for Christmas and paying people's mortgage payments this year for Christmas. Mm-hmm. So I'll, as we get closer to that, I'll send you all the details on that. If we got $50 out of everybody, and we got a couple hundred people to chip in $50, we could really, really help some people out with their mortgage or their rent or groceries, or just do something good for our communities. There's people that are losing everything right now, and it's just very sad to me. It's very, very sad.
It is. It's really sad. So we're getting towards the end here, but if people wanted to actually connect with you, where would they connect with you?
They can call me directly. I actually answer my phone. 916-289-3710. I ask that if you do call me, don't just call to say hi. Call with an agenda, or I might be rude and say, what do you want? If you need something, reach out. If you want a handout, don't call. I don't give out handouts, but I will give advice. If you've got a business question or something, I'm here to help people, but I'm not here to give everything away to everybody. If you want to learn more about how I can help your business, reach out, call. Don't lie to me. I'm going to be kind of like your attorney or your doctor. If you lie to your doctor and you're saying that everything is hunky-dory, they're going to send you home thinking everything is hunky-dory. If you call me and you need help with your business and I say, how's cash flow? And you say cash flow is good. Well, then what do you need help with? But you need help with cash flow. I can't help you. So when you call, and we get into conversation, just be honest with me, and I'll spend as much time as I need to help you get where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. And that's been my experience.
With me?
Yes, with you. That's been my experience. You get it done. You get it done.
Have I been wrong yet?
Nope.
So a lot of years. Just a lot of years. And it comes down to this. I have a lot of people that call me and they waste my time. And how is my time any less or more valuable than Donald Trump or Oprah or anybody, and Tom Cruise? How is my time any more or less valuable than them? You wouldn't call up Oprah and waste her time. She's going to say, get to the point. What do you need? And then she'll help you if she can help you. So when you call me, just be ready to answer questions and tell me what's going on, and we'll sit down and we'll figure out a solution to your problem. This is not about me. This is about helping you with your problem, and we'll sort it out and figure it all out.
Exactly. So any last words of advice on how to live an incredible life?
Yes, actually. If you're a small business owner, you're an employee wage earner, or whatever it is, you're retired, do not make excuses for yourself. So many people today, they make excuses. I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't have time for this. I could never afford that. That would never happen to me. And all they're doing is shutting off the possibility of any greatness in their life. And then when they sit back and they look at my life and they say, my God, the guy is so lucky. I'm not lucky. I worked my ass off, and I never made excuses for myself. I just sat down and figured out how to get it done. One of the things that I want to do right now is my wife and I were talking about having Porsche build us our car, our next car. They're going to build us a Porsche. You know how much money that costs? But at no point did I ever say I could not do that, or I can't afford that, or that would never happen. We sit back and we look and we evaluate and we figure out how to make that happen. The same thing with our dream homes. The same thing about retiring at 40. 5 years ago, I was almost bankrupt, trying to get this business off of the ground. I could have given up, but I didn't. And so many people ran around and spread rumors that Quinn is going out of business. Quinn is broke. There was somebody was running around telling everybody that Quinn is broke as a joke. You know what? I was broke as a joke, but it wasn't broke on paper. I was broke in liquid. There's a huge difference. And we sit back today, we could do anything that we want just about with either liquid or with credit, because we've got where we need to get in that sense. So people that are sitting back and they want to grow their business and they want to take their lives to the next level and they want to accomplish those things, first thing I say is that dream board that you have on the wall, throw it away. Quit looking at the dream board, okay? Quit saying, I'm someday going to do these things. Instead, say, I'm going to do this right now. How am I going to do this today? Whether that dream board says I'm going to take a trip to Italy, then figure out how to take the trip to Italy. It's only $5,000. Come on, dude. You got a Rolex watch that's worth $5,000, or you have a trip to Italy. Pick and choose your battles. How about your Starbucks? You're spending $10 a day on Starbucks. That equates to, $300 a month, $3,600 a year. Guess what? Can your Starbucks for a year, and you almost have enough for your trip to Italy. People make excuses, and they never actually do what they want in life. You just have to do it. Okay, whatever it is. You want to spend more time with your kids? Then spend more time with your kids. My dad still to this day, Dad, how come I'm the only one that picks up the phone to call? How come you never call me? I know, I'm so busy. I just had to realize, you know what? The man's never going to pick up the phone to call me. I have to pick up the phone to call him. It's excuse after excuse. You got to quit living your life making excuses for yourself. If you want to become somebody, you want to do something with your life, then just do it.
Love it. Love it.
Sorry I'm so intense and so hard on people, but you know what? It is what it is. You guys aren't paying me to be your friends. You're paying me to make you better. It's that simple.
Yep. And I think a lot of people need to hear that right now, because there's so much going on where we can make excuses. So,
my advice for people that are wanting to get their business off of the ground right now is to, yes, not make excuses, but do what everybody else isn't doing. If everybody else is going out and doing podcasts without video, then go and do a podcast with video. If everybody is going out and writing books, then write a book series. If everybody else is going and bungee jumping, then go skydiving. Do what everybody else isn't doing, because as soon as you put yourself into the crowd, you become everybody else. And the last thing you want is the results of everybody else, because everybody else is getting mediocre results. You have to set yourself apart. There are actors out there that want to become actors or filmmakers. And what do? They create a show, and then they spend all this time and energy trying to figure out where to get the show out. Or they spend all of this time and energy trying to create the most perfect cheeseburger, the perfect show, the perfect this, the perfect business, the perfect hot rod, the perfect whatever. But the point is that the most perfect product is not what sells. Your new iPhone still has bugs. Your new computer still has bugs. McDonald's is still trying to create a better cheeseburger. But in the meantime, they're selling billions of them. So create a product the masses will use and benefit from. Look at Zoom. It has a ton of bugs and issues, but we use it like all day long, every day. It keeps us in business. The point is that when you create something, do what everybody else isn't doing. JRQ, I don't want to create film. I want to build a TV network. Why? Because no one else is creating TV networks. Who's crazy enough to create a TV network? Ted Turner? Right? That's the point. So, it's pretty simple. Just do what everybody else isn't doing. Think innovative. Quit making excuses for yourself and get off your ass and do it. That's the best advice I can give people.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Quinn, for being on the show. We'll end with that.
Is this the most colorful program you've had so far?
Really colorful, and I love it. I just love it.
I'm sorry if I ruined your show.
I bet you
And
this
to
will
answer the audience's question, what's that?
I'll bet this will get the most views of all.
And to answer the audience's question, yes, I'm really like this in real life. Yes, this is literally me. So, yeah, as real as and authentic as it gets, I'm completely transparent. That's just what you get. So, thank you so much, Kimberly.
Yes, and thank you for just being you, being your true, authentic, lovable self.
Just a big, I'm like an M&M, big hard outer coating, right? And nice and soft like a teddy bear on the inside. So, oh well.
That's right.
See you next time.
All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.